It's the ITV News.
An abusive husband is sentenced to 8 years in jail after his wife took her own life. Lee Milne was convicted of killing his wife Kimberly Milne, who jumped to her death from a bridge in Scotland following months of abuse.
By the jury's verdict, you must bear responsibility not only for all of your abusive acts, but also for causing her death.
Also this lunchtime, the First Lady's extraordinary address at the White House. Melania Trump blasts claims linking her to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
Why some British holidaymakers could be about to face long queues at EU border controls. And
we're going to come into the atmosphere at about almost 40 times the speed of sound.
The final countdown to splashdown. The crew of the Artemis 2 prepare for their crucial re-entry to Earth.
This is the ITV Lunchtime News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good afternoon. A domestic abuser who was convicted of killing his wife after she took her own life has been jailed for 8 years. 28-year-old Kimberly Milne died after being hit by vehicles when she jumped off a bridge in Dundee in July 2023. She'd been subjected to months of abuse by her husband, 40-year-old Lee Milne, who was found guilty of her death in March. Well, Vanessa Taff is at Glasgow's High Court for us. It's lunchtime. Vanessa, this conviction is the first of its kind in Scotland.
Yes, this is a landmark case and hugely significant for victims of domestic abuse. It also marks a significant shift in the Scottish justice system as well. For the very first time here, a jury has found a man, Lee Milne, guilty of killing his wife even though she took her own life. Now, there was a similar case in England in 2017, but the difference between that case and this case is that there was an admission of guilt there, which there was not from Lee Milne. Now, Lee Milne began his abuse and his physical and psychological abuse of his wife Kimberly in 2022, and that continued right up until the moment of her death. The pair were seen arguing publicly in a car park, and even a passerby stopped Kimberly to see if she was okay, and that really played a huge part in this sentencing when Lady Drummond handed down that 8-year sentencing to Lee Milne this morning. It wasn't just that one incident that caused Kimberly's death, it was many.
By the jury's verdict, you must bear responsibility not only for all of your abusive acts, but also for causing her death. I've read the victim impact statements from Kimberly Milne's family. They describe her as one in a million. A much-loved daughter, sister and aunt, and they are devastated by her death.
There were lots of women's rights supporters and charity workers here this morning as well in solidarity. There was quite a nice atmosphere from them, that they'd all showed up together to show support for Kimberly's family, but also for other victims of domestic abuse as well. And I think really, they told me they were a little bit disappointed with the length of the sentence, but ultimately mixed feelings around the significance of today.
It's really bittersweet because, you know, Kimberly has paved the way for women that have unfortunately passed away due to domestic abuse. It's just a shame that she's not here to see that herself. But I do think it's significant, and I do hope that, like I say, more people are brought to justice for this kind of crime.
Well, it's taken many steps to get here, and ultimately there have been many lives lost to get to this place today. But ultimately there is now hope for victims of domestic abuse that this case could set a legal precedent, not just here in Scotland, but for the rest of the UK as well.
All right, Vanessa in Glasgow, thank you very much. And if you've been affected by any of the issues raised in that story, you can find support on our website, itv.com/helplines. Next is lunchtime. The new rules coming into force at EU border controls that potentially could bring long queues for British holidaymakers. Under the new entry-exit system, passengers without EU passports will be required to have their fingerprints registered and their pictures taken before they travel. Jonathan Swain spoke to passengers at Faro Airport in Portugal.
Well, this Easter is a particularly busy time to travel to Europe because of the conflict in the Middle East. Lots of those holidays have been cancelled. Now, this new system is partially in place here at Faro Airport. We arrived here last night. There were queues building at the passport desks as the officers there are now beginning to take passengers' fingerprints and photographs, although the automatic passport barriers are still in use, so you can get through there much more quickly. This new system was a surprise to the passengers that I spoke to on my flight.
A little bit annoying. Took a while and a little bit invasive. We did our fingerprints on the EU lane, but no, I didn't know about it. But if it makes it quicker, I'm up for it.
You have to commit a crime to have your fingerprints done, don't you?
Let's have a look in a little bit more detail now about what this new system is. It's being implemented across Europe from today. Well, the new EES system, as it's called, will register people's fingerprints and faces as well as other data. The system applies to short-stay holidays for non-EU nationals. Of course, that includes us if you have a UK passport, and children under the age of 12 will be exempt from giving fingerprints, but they'll still need to have their faces scanned into the new system. Well, this system is being introduced, as I say, across Europe from today, although in France the rollout is being delayed because of some technical issues. It is being used, as I say, partially here at Faro Airport. Similar situation at airports in Spain and well as Italy that we're hearing about as well. So it is going to be an exceptionally busy weekend for people travelling to and from Europe, from the UK. So if you are travelling, you've been warned. Good luck and try and avoid the queues.
Jonathan Swain reporting from Portugal there. Now, negotiators from Iran and the US are preparing for ceasefire talks due to start this weekend in Islamabad in Pakistan. It's as Israel and Hezbollah continue to trade fire in Lebanon overnight and this morning. The dispute over whether or not Lebanon is part of the fragile ceasefire is creating tension ahead of those peace talks. Our international editor Emma Murphy is in Tehran and visited a graveyard.
This is Tehran's largest graveyard, and today it is so busy with families coming to lay flowers on the graves of their dead. And many of those in this area were killed either in the 12-day war or in this war. And we have spoken to multiple families who tell us about the terrible intergenerational tragedy of this conflict and of entire families being wiped out in their homes. Now, this is the day that peace talks are expected or hoped to take place. And thoughts of many people here are whether or not those talks will happen and whether or not they will generate war or whether they will generate peace. There is a very deep suspicion in the Iranian society about America's fair dealing when it comes to peace talks, because of course the last two sets have ended in war. But there is also deep suspicion on the American side and the Western side about how committed Iran is to this, and also about its actions with regard to the Strait of Hormuz, because now we've been told that it is open. Some vessels, but very few, are passing, but with a fee levied by the Iranians. That's something neither the Americans nor the West want to happen. The Iranians say that they want to charge those fees, they have to charge those fees to pay for the reparations. And of course, at the heart of all the discussion in the past days and will be for the days to come is the question of Lebanon. The fact that whether or not Lebanon was in the original framework that was agreed upon by all sides. Iran says that there will be no peace without Lebanon being involved. America by word, Israel by deed, have suggested they have absolutely no intention of involving Lebanon. The talks may or may not go ahead later today.
Our international editor Emma Murphy reporting there from Tehran. Well, it is the final day of Sir Keir Starmer's diplomacy tour of the Gulf states, where he's been attempting to exert some influence on a longer-term solution for reopening the Strait of Hormuz. Speaking in Qatar, the Prime Minister said more work is needed to support the ceasefire in the Middle East.
A real sense of here we are as an ally, standing with our allies when it matters most to them. Obviously, the discussion moved very quickly to the ceasefire, a sense that it's fragile, that more work is needed, that the Strait of Hormuz has to be part of the solution, a very strong sense that there can't be tolling or restrictions on that navigation.
Our political editor, Robert Peston, who has been travelling with the Prime Minister, gives his analysis.
So the closest the Prime Minister's come today to talking about the impact of Donald Trump's war on energy prices and cost of living for British people is that he did say he raised with the American president the importance of getting traffic flowing again through the Strait of Hormuz. That's the tankers and ships that the Iranians have hitherto not been allowing to flow through, which has massively disrupted oil supplies, and it is very, very striking that the oil price remains highly elevated, causing, potentially great hardship for consumers all over the world, businesses all over the world, including, of course, in the UK. I mean, the fact is, however, that there wouldn't have been that blockade, oil would be flowing if it hadn't been for Trump's war. And, there was no sense from the Prime Minister that he is, in a sense, resigning or changing his mind on the fact that, both Putin and Trump have, with their wars, done tremendous damage to living standards of consumers in Britain and across the world. Strikingly, he also said that he is making the case for how NATO membership is in America's interest, and that comes across against the backdrop of the American president making those threats to pull out of NATO.
Robert Peston there. Well, to the US now, where Melania Trump has attacked what she called lies linking her to the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein in an extraordinary address from the White House, which even the president reportedly didn't know about. The First Lady denied ever being friends with Epstein and called on Congress to give Epstein survivors the opportunity to share their stories. Rosie Dowsing has more.
The Iran war is all-consuming in Washington, so no one was expecting this from the First Lady of the United States.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
Melania Trump denies ties to the late convicted sex offender in a press conference that came seemingly out of the blue.
To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
Despite being pictured with Epstein, Melania said they just overlapped in social circles. She said individuals were lying to defame her reputation. More surprising, though, was this plea for action.
I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors.
We are not asking for pity.
Lisa Phillips, who was sexually assaulted by Epstein at 21 years old, says she wasn't expecting to hear any mention of survivors.
I guess we didn't really know how much she cared about us or wanted to make it look like she cared.
Lisa says she'd be willing to meet the First Lady to see if her words can be put into action.
Well, I love seeing a powerful woman stand up for other powerful women. For someone who's saying, giving the first real big idea in the last 6 months of something that can move this forward, absolutely. I would love to meet with her. I can't speak for everybody.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump reportedly had no idea his wife would be making this televised address.
Then, and only then, we will have the truth.
Which marked an extraordinary intervention in a scandal survivors hoped hadn't quite gone away. Rosie Dowsing, ITV News.
Now, the astronauts of the Artemis 2 mission have set course to begin their long journey home. Picking up speeds of around 23,000 miles per hour, they are due to splash down off the coast of San Diego just after 1 a.m. Saturday our time. The historic 10-day mission reached further than any human has gone before. But let's speak to someone who knows exactly how the Artemis crew are feeling. Major Major Tim Peake was the first British European Space Agency astronaut to go to the International Space Station back in 2015, and I'm delighted to say that he joins me now. Major Tim Peake, thank you so much for talking to us. We just saw some pictures of you in space, pretty much 10 years ago. You were in the Soyuz, you were returning to Earth. You will know exactly how those astronauts aboard the Artemis will be feeling. What will be going through their minds right now?
Yes, there'll be a huge amount of excitement. They'll be looking forward to seeing their friends and families, of course. They've also brought a wealth of science back with them and their own human experiences of what they've seen around the far side of the moon. But at the moment, it'll be professional focus. There's a lot to happen now. They've got to get that cabin reconfigured, the seats reinstalled, everything stowed away, ready for this punishing re-entry. And they've got a final trajectory burn to do as well.
Yeah, it's a very precise operation that requires, as you say, every detail to go to plan. There will be a quite nerve-wracking point just before 1 a.m. Where there is a planned 6 minutes comms blackout.
That's right. So the spacecraft hits the top of the atmosphere doing about 25,000 miles an hour. That's a vast amount of energy. And that amount of energy, it actually strips the molecules of air. It causes plasma to come around the whole spacecraft. It goes up to about 2,700 Celsius. That's half as hot as the surface of the sun. And there's no way that the communication can happen with the spacecraft when it's wrapped in a ball of plasma. So for those 6 minutes, we have a communication blackout period. So there will be some nerves and some apprehension during that period until communication is re-established with the spacecraft.
What have you made of the mission?
I've enjoyed every single step. It's been phenomenal. From a test point of view, the Orion spacecraft's performed really well. That European service module did a fantastic translunar injection burn, very, very accurate. The only problems they've experienced have been relatively trivial problems to do with some living accommodation, getting the loo working, things like that. Nothing insurmountable. We spoke to Dr. Kelsey Young yesterday as part of a podcast, and she is the NASA science lead for this mission, and she is overwhelmed with the amount of scientific data that crew have provided. It's going to take a long time to go through it all, but it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a lot about how this is inspiring a whole new generation, really. Do you think we're going to see space holidays in our time?
Further down the line, we probably will. I mean, we've already had spaceflight participants on the International Space Station spending days at a time up there. And as the cost of getting to space and back gets cheaper and cheaper, I'm sure that's something that we'll see in the future. But for now, we're focused on, going back to the moon and having this sustainable presence. All eyes now will be focused on Artemis 3 and Artemis 4, boots back on the moon again.
All right, Major Tim Peake, thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, this lunchtime, Nettie Edmondson has been hunting for treasure for 21 years. Known among her fellow detectorists as the Golden Girl, now her collection is going under the hammer and is expected to fetch over £10,000. Lucille Brobby went to meet her.
So, Nettie, this is where you detect. Tell me a little bit more. How did you get into it?
I had quite a stressful job. And I used to walk I live in a village locally, so I used to walk in the fields, and I literally saw somebody detecting. So I went up to talk to him. He let me have a little go. And I thought, I can do this, I'd enjoy this. So I went out and bought a machine, the same one he had. And I asked the local farmers if I could come and use their fields, which they said yes. And I've never looked back, really.
And 2 decades later, you're still detecting, and, for the past 12 years, you found gold every single year. That's really impressive. Like, how have you managed to do that?
I've had some very good land. I'm very patient and time. And like I say, if it's under there, I'll find it.
And now they're going under the hammer. How are you feeling about letting go of your treasure?
I've got a new cabinet, I'll start again.
For somebody that has never got into metal detecting before, what's your top tip?
Just buy a little machine and try it. It's like Marmite. You'll love it or you will hate it.
Well, I'm certainly loving it so far, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and good luck with the auction.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lucille Bobby with Golden Girl Nettie in Bedford. That's it for now from everyone on the Lunchtime team. Bye-bye. Have a great afternoon.